Dana White's Contender Series. This is Season 8, Episode 2. We have 5 fights lined up for this Tuesday night. I'm John Kelly. Let's hear the picks. And we're going to kick things off in the bantamweight division as Cody Haddon is a minus 192 favorite currently. The comeback on Billy Brand is plus 160. And we'll start on the Haddon side. This is a guy that I'm very excited about. It was actually my first bet of the week. I didn't get the full opener, which was absolutely stupid. He opened at plus 164 on DraftKings last week. I got him at minus 120 to win 1 unit. That's my only play as of now. But that's one where I just thought the line was clearly wrong. I definitely think he should be the bigger favorite here, and I think where it's at now is about right in that minus 200 range. I just think he's a much more technical fighter than Billy Brand, and Haddon is a guy that you might be familiar with when you taped Steven Erceg for last week's card at UFC 305 because he fought Erceg. It was just his 3rd professional fight, I believe. He took a short notice title shot against Steve Erceg, and he went tooth and nail with him. Basically came down to the last minute of the fight where he ended up giving up position there, and it ended up costing him a very competitive fight. But this dude is very good. Make no mistake about it. He's a 4-time amateur boxing champion. He's a 2-time Pan-Pacific Jiu-Jitsu champion at blue belt and purple belt. He's got a very credentialed background in terms of martial arts. He's been a martial artist his whole life, and he's just got a very well-rounded skill set. I talked about the boxing background. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well, but he's also very difficult to take down and control on the mat. When he is taken down, he pops right back up to his feet. He's also got very good cardio as well. He's just one of those guys that seems to be ready for this type of opportunity. Then you look at Billy Brand on the flip side, and similar situation, his only professional loss, like Haddon's came against Steve Erceg, this guy's only professional loss came against Peyton Talbot in a fight where they went tooth and nail. It ended up being the fight of the year when they put on a show back then. So he's certainly somebody that wants to bring a fight to his opponents. He kind of fights similarly to Peyton Talbot. Now, obviously, he's not nearly as good, but it's just constant forward pressure with him. He's got very sharp leg kicks. He wants to overwhelm his opponents. He'll try some crazy flying knees and other stuff like that. And he does have, some submission chokes in his game as well. Although I do think Haddon is going to be the better grappler if the fight is going to go to the mat. But I kind of just think this one plays out on the feet with Brand trying to pressure Haddon and Haddon just kind of being the more technical striker, kind of like Lanair Kavanagh last week, where you have one guy who's just basically trying to move forward and swing heavies, and then you have somebody like Haddon who I think is going to be able to manage the distance a lot better and eventually just pick Brand apart for 15 minutes. We'll say it's Haddon by decision. That's the official pick, and he's going to kick things off in the Degen Parlay. And next fight up, we have Torrez Finney, a minus 380 favorite with the comeback on Cameron Rowston at plus 300. And you guys know me, I'm a big Finney guy. I liked him last season when he fought on Contender Series. I was kind of bummed to see him not get the contract despite winning by finish in that fight as well. It's just that Dana doesn't like wrestlers, and anyone that's looking to wrestle, he's just not going to get as excited, even though Finney showed a good game plan, showed a ton of power, and he got the finish. So technically, he checked most of the boxes for a Contender Series contract, but he still didn't get it. So now they're bringing him back. He's 8-0. This guy has a crazy athletic background. He's a 2-time high school state champion wrestler. He also wrestled collegiately and earned all-state honors for his college football team. So he's just a very, very athletic dude, explosive. I mean, the dude's pecs and traps are literally bigger than my head. And that's how he fights. You know, we kind of saw it last week, the Mansur Abdul Malik, where the explosiveness and the actual athleticism gap was just so big in that fight. That's how it is with Torrez Finney. He picks up his opponents, throws them around like a sack of potatoes, and he's very powerful. Now, where he could struggle is that he needs to set up his shots better. He can be clipped on the feet. His striking is still a work in progress, but I do just think that power, that athleticism is going to make him tough to beat. And on the flip side, Cameron Rowston is an 8-2 prospect fighting out of Australia, and he's very long for the division, comes from a Muay Thai striking background. He wants to land some of those big knees and elbows in the clinch. I think the way that he wins this fight and pulls off a big upset is by landing something as Finney's trying to come in and close distance. It's not impossible because, like I said, Finney can get a little bit sloppy, but we've also seen Rowston get taken down and outgrappled regionally. He's also lost to Jacob Malkoun. Anytime he's fought someone with a winning record, he's lost. So the level of competition is not there. I've seen the deficiencies in the takedown defense and the grappling to where I just expect Finney to kind of ragdoll him and eventually get a finish. We'll say it's Finney by TKO, and he's going to keep things rolling in the Degen Parlay. And next fight up, we'll head back to the bantamweight division. We have another fighter returning this season. He fought last season in the finale against Ramon Taveras. I'm talking about Courtavious Romious, where him and Taveras basically just met in the middle and just went to absolute war. Both guys landed some big shots, and ultimately it was Taveras who ended up coming through as an underdog and winning by knockout. So now they're bringing Romious back. He's a very electric striker, does have power. 5 of his 8 wins have also come by submission. He's an opportunistic submission grappler, although I wouldn't expect him to go to that in this fight against Michael Imperato. And the last thing I'll say about Romious is he is getting those rounds, and he's a training partner of Montel Jackson. He's also at the same camp as Wes Schultz, who fought Mansour Abdul Malik on last week's card. But in terms of the matchup, Michael Imperato is a 12-6 Canadian prospect, doesn't have the best record on paper, and he is a little bit older, but this guy is a specialist when it comes to his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a black belt, and he's just very good if you're going to tangle with him on the mat. So I would hope that Romious doesn't have that game plan here, and I don't think he will. But it's going to be up to Imperato to force those grappling exchanges. That's how he wins, is he catches Romious in some type of grappling exchange and ends up pulling off the early submission. But I think as the fight goes on, especially, I don't trust the gas tank of Imperato, and because he is so one-dimensional, and I think he's going to be outgunned on the feet here, I'm going to say it's Romious by TKO. That's the official pick. And next fight up, we have Rizvan Kuniev, the biggest betting favorite on the card, a -500 favorite. The comeback on Hugo Cunha is +390. And we'll start on the Kuniev side. He actually fought on the 2021 season of Contender Series, and he did end up getting a late round stoppage there, but was not ordered a contract. He also just fought for PFL back in April, but it was overturned due to a failed drug test on the Kuniev side. So something to make note of here. In terms of his style, he's an 11-2 prospect. He's got that typical Dagestani grappling style, but honestly, it's pretty boring. Like, I could see him winning this fight and still not getting a contract once again, because he's basically like similar to Martin Boudet, somebody that just wants to close distance and just make it dirty and grind on you up against the fence. Obviously, he is going to look to take you down and out-grapple you as well, but he's perfectly content with just leaning on his opponents, wearing them down, and he does have pretty solid cardio as well. Now, on the flip side, Hugo Cunha is the former LFA light heavyweight champion. He actually just beat Eduardo Neves, who previously fought on the Contender Series and ended up losing, but he seems to be a pretty solid prospect. He's an 8-1 fighter, fights out of Brazil. He's actually a 2-time Brazilian national wrestling member, but he's also a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that seems to be his way to win, is he wants to take guys down and pull off some type of submission, and that's certainly live in this spot. Where I worry about Cunha is the gas tank, because anytime he gets extended, he tends to fade. And the last time he went to a decision, he did not look great, and he ended up losing that fight. So I could just see this being one that plays out competitive early, but if he's unable to find that submission finish, I think Kuniev is going to wear on him, is going to tax that cardio, and eventually take over in the final rounds. We'll say it's Kuniev by decision, but I think the line is wide here, and I don't really have any interest in Kuniev in terms of a bet, but also in terms of giving him a UFC roster spot, because I just feel like he's got a very boring style. But we'll see if he changes my mind. The official pick is going to be Kuniev by decision, and he's going to keep things going in the Degen Parlay. Which brings us to our main event. This one's in the welterweight division, as Andreas Gustafsson is a -278 favorite. The comeback on Pat Pytlik is +220. And we'll start on the Gustafsson side. This is a 10-2 prospect fighting out of Sweden, and of those 10 professional victories, 7 of them have come by knockout, and it's no surprise when you watch this guy fight, because he is looking to take your head off from the opening bell, and I am not exaggerating. This dude is very powerful. He looks very intimidating. He's absolutely shredded, but he swings with big power, and he can carry that power for 15 minutes if he needs to. And I think that's key, because a lot of times you see these guys that are more of a front runner where it's like they have to finish you in that first round or you don't trust them. He's going to carry that power for 15 minutes, and he could certainly knock you out in any of those rounds. Now, where I worry about him is he does get reckless, and he can be hit in striking exchanges. We have seen him rocked. We have seen him out-grappled at times as well. Now, on the flip side, Pytlik is a 9-1 Canadian prospect. He's the former welterweight champion over in Unified promotion, and he's a training partner of Mike Malott and Gavin Tucker up there in Canada. He seems to be a solid striker, comes from a striking background, doesn't really have a ton of grappling chops, and I just expect him to want to make this into a firefight with Gustafsson, and that's where I worry, because the level of competition is not really there, and I don't think the power is going to be up to par with a guy like Gustafsson, who is going to be able to land big and potentially hurt you. The last thing that I'll say on Pytlik is previously he actually took 3 years away from the sport for a lingering back issue. It seems to be fine now, but it is something to note. I always get a little bit of concern when I see things like that, because you just never know if it's going to pop back up again, but have to treat it like he's going to be fully healthy here, and I would expect him to be. I just think the power is going to be too much on the Gustafsson side, but it's a high variance fight. The dog could be live here if he can match the power of Gustafsson, who has been hit before, but ultimately, I'm going to side on the Gustafsson side. I'm not fading that power. We'll say it's Gustafsson by TKO. That's the official pick. So to recap for the Degen Parlay, we're kicking things off with my guy Cody Haddon. I just think he's a much more technical striker. Despite the forward pressure of Billy Bland, I expect Haddon to be able to outpoint him and get the better of the exchanges. In the second fight of the night, we're going back to my guy Torrez Finney. This dude is an absolute monster. I expect him to get the takedowns and get the finish. In the third fight, we're going with another returning, Courtavious Romious. I'm worried a little bit about the grappling of Michael Imperato, and Romious is kind of inexperienced to where if he gets caught, that's certainly in the cards. But I just think on the feet, it's going to be all Romious, and I expect him to hopefully be able to land something big and hopefully get another flashy, exciting knockout. In the fourth fight, we're going with the boring wrestler from Dagestan and Kuniev. I think the line is wide here, but I just think the cardio is the biggest advantage in this fight, and if it does get extended, then I'd expect him to be able to take over. In the last fight, in the main event, we're going with the power of my guy Andreas Gustafsson. I just think this is one where it plays out somewhat competitively until Gustafsson's able to land one of those big blows and get him out of there. So that's going to do it, guys. As always, appreciate you joining. Best of luck, and we'll see you guys next week.